tonight. We'll discuss these developments and more with SABC News International Editor Sophie Mokoena, who is joining us now for a discussion. Sophie, before we even get to Mozambique, as we just heard, South Africa welcoming the developments of the warrant of arrest issued against Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu, his former defense minister and a Hamas leader.
Yes, you'd recall that the chief prosecutor has requested the trial chamber to make a ruling whether that action must be taken. You know that Israel was arguing that the court or the prosecutor can't do that. And therefore, the trial chamber has agreed, and therefore, warrants of arrest have been issued in terms of the leadership of Israel Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu and the former defense minister. Now, you know that this process, if we look at South Africa went to the International Criminal Court first in December last year, requesting the prosecutor to look into this matter. Now, the responsibility of the International Criminal Court is to do follow-up on cases in relation to individuals who have allegedly committed crime against humanity. So it's individuals, not countries. In January, then South Africa went to the International Court of Justice, the World Court, under the auspice of the United Nations, requesting the court to come up with measures, interim measures, that will ensure that you stop the killings or the killing of ordinary innocent people in Gaza, while South Africa was going to file papers bringing evidence that Israel is committing genocide in Gaza. And therefore, you now have these two processes. So South Africa has been at the forefront in the ICC and also in the ICJ. Both institutions are in The Hague.
And enforcement is also an issue for some, and it's a big one, given what we've seen in the past. So how does it all play out?
Well, those states that are signatories to the Rome Statute that brought together this court, the International Criminal Court, South Africa was a founding country also, will have to comply in terms of arresting Benjamin Netanyahu and the former defense minister, should they visit their countries. Now, countries have already issued statements, particularly the Scandinavian countries that are part of the ICC, saying they will comply. And other countries, the Netherlands, Belgium, and Ireland, have already issued statements through their foreign affairs ministers that they will comply with the court. We know South Africa has gone there. There's no way South Africa can't comply, and many other countries. So Benjamin Netanyahu's movement now is a problem. He can only visit countries that are not signatories to this Rome Statute, and therefore it is not going to be easy for him. So the problem is, when you look at the airspace, sometimes even though you are not going to a country that is not a signatory to the ICC, you have to use the airspace of a country that is a signatory to the Rome Statute. So you can't fly. That is why when you look at 2 days ago, Turkey refused Benjamin Netanyahu's private jet to fly in the airspace of Turkey. And at that time, there was no warrant of arrest. So you can imagine when now you have this warrant of arrest against Benjamin Netanyahu, it is going to be a problem for him to travel.
And another developing story, of course, the SADC Extraordinary Summit addressing the security concerns in Mozambique, with President Filipe Nyusi providing an update there. But it appears as if the body continues to worry about the situation in the country, even calling on the opposition parties and those who are aggrieved to then be able that they seek legal solutions to try and deal with what is taking place there.
Yes, it was clear from I think 2 days just before the summit, that it was going to be very difficult for the summit to come up with a concrete proposal in terms of what needs to happen. Because when you look at people who attended, yes, countries did send people to represent different countries, but it wasn't that powerful delegation. Only few countries were there at the heads of state government level. And therefore, it was clear that it was going to be problematic. The second issue for me, with experience in terms of the problems in the region, the SADC Troika, organ on politics, defense and security, is the institution that is supposed to convene a Troika meeting, perhaps inviting extra countries to come and discuss. And therefore, to bring the entire assembly, it was problematic. And I am not surprised that they agreed that the Troika, even Nyusi, the current president or the outgoing president, did point out that it should be the Troika that is dealing with this matter. And therefore, I expect Tanzania to continue to engage stakeholders in that country. And the president, the outgoing president, has already reached out to all the candidates, trying to bring them together to discuss. Now, the main candidate who has fled to Europe and Sweden in particular, Mondlane, has agreed, but then he has to travel back to Mozambique. They have to guarantee his security. Or they may decide to meet in Tanzania if Tanzania was to convene such a meeting. And therefore, I think there's progress because at least there's an agreement in terms of finding a way to deal with this issue.
And I suppose the big concern is also what is taking place on the ground to ensure that the escalation of the violence actually does not continue, and at the same time you then don't see the situation that we've seen in the streets and potentially then resolve this crisis once and for all.
I can't see people on the ground not continuing with the protest because I think they would want to put pressure on whatever negotiations are happening on the ground. But the president of Mozambique, Nyusi, indicated that when he was addressing the nation 2 days ago, that the security must continue to work to ensure security and protect property and also the people of Mozambique. And you'll continuously see this standoff. But I think for me, the big breaking news this afternoon is when Mondlane agreed to meet with President Nyusi and other leaders in Mozambique. But then, as I pointed out, is this meeting going to be virtual, which I think that will be the starting point while you prepare for his traveling back to the country and guaranteeing him security, or having the next meeting in Tanzania, perhaps convened by Troika.
And especially because, you know, even him fleeing could also signal that he may not even have trust in some of the mechanisms to be able to try and resolve this issue in the country. But Sophie, thank you so much. Let's see, as you say, it's the big story this evening. He's agreed, but what form does this meeting then take?